You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. I'm happy to have back on the Goldstein on Gelt show best-selling author Vicky Ward. Vicky, pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Doug. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
For those of you who might have missed the previous interviews, you can download the podcast at goldsteinongelt.com or simply look up on YouTube Goldstein on Gelt and you'll see the Vicky Ward interviews there. Vicky is not only the best-selling author of The Devil's Casino, which is what we spoke about in the past. That's the story of what happened to Lehman Brothers, but she currently serves as a contributor to Fox News and Fox Business, and she recently made a very big career move. Vicky, why don't you tell us what happened?
Well, I jumped ship to MWW, where I'm going to be, where I am. I've just started, Senior Vice President of Corporate Communications. And I did this for a variety of reasons. I'd been thinking of making the move into the sector for some time, largely because, I've been writing about corporations and about CEOs for, nearly 20 years. So I've come to know them very well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, journalists keep up their relations with the people they write about. And a lot of time people would say to me, well, what is the general perception of our company? What is the general perception of me right now? And I'd have to tell people
Sorry to tell you.
But I would always say it very nicely. I have to tell them some things that it surprised me quite often that they didn't see, and it's not because in any ways these are stupid people. These are very, very brilliant people. But, the stronger your corporate culture is sometimes, the more of a bubble you're in, particularly sometimes if you work for a corporation that doesn't rely on consumers necessarily. I often found myself sort of almost holding up a mirror, and a lot of the CEOs would find this extremely helpful and say, "Well, could you keep talking? Because actually, I'd like to hear more of this more consistently, and the executive leadership team would like to hear more of this consistently." And when I sort of also kind of analyzed it, I realized that Blackstone back in the day, when it wasn't doing so well, when Pete Peterson and Steve Schwarzman, many years ago was struggling with it, they in fact brought in a journalist or a team of journalists to look at the company and see what was going wrong. And more recently, Linda Robinson, of Barbarians at the Gate fame, left RLM to go and do something similar at BlackRock. Not that BlackRock was necessarily doing anything wrong, but it was to really take a good look at what they could be doing better. And I sort of found this idea fascinating. And luckily for me, Michael Kempner, who owns MWW and was the founder of it 20 years ago, then had sold the company and recently bought it back, happens to be a sort of outside-of-the-box thinker, and he saw the value in having someone like me in an organization who knew a lot of CEOs, but he said to me, if you come here, I don't want you to start thinking like a PR person. I want you to, your value is as a journalist, which is, I think, why he also is quite happy for me to write my book on the General Motors building, which I'd already signed, and to continue to be, a contributor to Fox News and Fox Business.
Right, but more than building the reputation of these companies, one of the ways that MWW described your position was as dealing with crisis management.
Right, because if you think about it, my book was about
a huge crisis.
What had led to the
company, right?
The crisis, the crisis that brought down the world economy.
150-year-old guy. Yeah, okay, that was bad.
But it also had. I mean, the interesting thing is that Lehman Brothers kind of did bring on. They did have
PR.
an outside PR team towards the end, but if they had a corporate communications team really working with them consistently the whole way through, I don't think, and you need it from the outside, not just from the inside, because a lot of these big banks have very strong internal communications.
Right, their own people telling them the things they want to hear.
Well, that's the danger, particularly in a strong culture. And as you know, that my book was very much about how Lehman came to be a culture that didn't tolerate debate at the very top. And I think, the question is, would they have listened to anyone who came in from the outside? But ideally, that is what, and I think there's a big lesson from all of that certainly took me down this path, that, I think corporations have realized that they need to be continually aware of public perception, and that they need to, in the modern age of endless news,
too much
high-speed internet, exactly. They have to adapt frighteningly quickly, and they need help with that. And I think the other thing that it's really difficult, particularly for big corporations, to do is to really stand out among the crowd, because it's no longer enough to be a trusted brand. You have to be, Michael and MWW have come up with this great phrase that you have to be relevant, and what they mean by that is that you have to sparkle. There's so much choice out there that people, consumers and stakeholders are almost deafened and confused and blinded by it all. And so how do you, not just people's trust, but how do you shine? And the things that go into that, when you really look at it, might surprise you. But there was a piece written in the New York Times recently explaining why it was that Starbucks had managed to become an iconic company that does stand out. The reason for that is not just that it makes great coffee and it's profitable, though those are reasons to trust it, but it does a huge amount towards helping the American economy.
Mm-hmm. And it keeps people awake at work, so that's
right. No, I didn't mean that. It does have that added value. Yes.
Right. We're talking with Vicky Ward, who is the best-selling author of The Devil's Casino. She recently joined the MWW Group. Vicky, I want to comment on the Starbucks thing. We had on the show a little while back Joe Michelli, who wrote at least one book on the topic and actually has done a lot of research. Fascinating interview. You can download the interview with Joe or previous interviews with Vicky at goldsteinongelt.com. I'd like to touch in the last couple of minutes before we run out of time. Some people might accuse you of switching teams, whereas having been a journalist for all of the top papers and magazines and certainly a very well-respected business contributor like on Fox News, you've sort of been on the side of the shareholders, people who want to know what's going on inside. Do you feel that maybe this is a switch of team? The CEOs are going to say, hey Vicky, we did something wrong. Now you got to spin it to make it look good.
I hope that my value. Well, number one, I think what I'm doing creates actually a sort of new paradigm, and I sort of have Michael Kempner to thank for letting me do that, because we'll see if this works. But in a way, I'm still an author. I'm still on television commenting about business, and here I am advising CEOs, but I do see it as my role to tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that you can help anybody effectively unless they tell you what's really going on, and you then are equally honest, back to them. And I also don't think that I'd be then going out, and I mean, I have too many former colleagues and people I respect from the journalist community to spin them a bunch of rubbish. If I thought someone had something that they shouldn't say or wasn't worth saying, I would, in the corporate world, I would tell them not to say it.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a new challenge for me. And although you say it's switching teams, the world has changed. Doug, the publishing world has changed. The nature of journalism has also changed. And I don't know how it's all going to shake out. I don't think anybody knows. I think it's fascinating that, corporations now tell their stories on Facebook and things like that, and MWW is particularly hot on that sort of stuff. And so I think the two worlds of communication and journalism have become much closer than they used to be. I mean, it used to be sort of a war of attrition. I just don't think it is that anymore. Shouldn't say that spin isn't out there and all the rest of it.
I guess it depends who it is, right? In other words, the PR people could either be brought on to spin the story, or they're being brought on to really help the companies. Vicky, we're just about out of time, but I'm just going to touch on the your book about General Motors, the General Motors building. Could you just tell us where we're holding on that so that people can follow you? If I follow orders, which I will do, I should have a manuscript in by the end of the year. Okay, that's great. And how can people follow the work you're doing now at MWW?
Well, they can go to the MWW website, and very shortly, I'm sure I will have Facebook and Twitter accounts, and they can take a good look at that. And I still have my own website, which I need to update, which is Vicky@VickyWard.com. Vicky with a Y.
Okay, Vicky Ward, it's always a pleasure to have you back. I wish you the best of luck in the new position. I'm sure that all of the clients who are going to be working with you are going to be very lucky to have your insight to help them bring their story to the world.
Thank you, Doug. And I look forward to I know you've got new things on the horizon too, so I look forward to taking a look at that.
All right, we'll be talking about that soon. Vicky Ward, thanks again.
Take care. Bye.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt show.